Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be looking at the potential and actually fairly significant chance now of a significant and disruptive snow event across multiple areas of the UK this week. So we'll jump in right now by looking at the Met Office warnings. I'm not going to focus too much on this since I've kind of been saying it for the last videos repeatedly. A fairly decent covering of snow in this areas, 5 to 10 centimeters possible in some spots, maybe 1 to 5 centimeters more widely. But our attention for this video is firstly going to be across the south of the UK, South Wales, southern England and southwest England, where we're going to see potentially multiple spells of significant snow during Wednesday. We'll take a look at this Met Office warning here. You can see valid, so snow and ice, a yellow warning, comes into force at midnight in a couple of hours, and it goes all the way through Wednesday until 9 AM on Thursday. And if I read through that risk area, you can see an area of rain, sleet and snow is expected to develop over the southwest England during Tuesday evening, and then move east during early Wednesday, and then another spell of sleet and especially snow is likely to develop during the afternoon, moving east into the evening. However, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'll get into all of the details there. But the most significant area is likely to be kind of the M4 corridor south, and a couple of spots could see 5 to 10 centimeters of snow, though more widely 1 to 3 centimeters. And to be honest, I'll get into this in more detail in a bit, but I wouldn't be surprised to see an amber warning, because as you can see here, the impacts are on a medium level, 2 out of 3. It's just the likelihood is fairly low at this stage. There's a lot of uncertainty. So that's the first warning. We'll talk about Thursday, Friday a bit later. And we'll start off by looking at the kind of satellite imagery. Let's just play this. You can see we have a large low pressure system to the kind of south west of the UK. We have this nice big low here spinning quite beautifully actually. You can see clouds are wrapping in around like that. And then we actually have kind of this elongated area of lower pressure kind of like that. It's fairly quite long, and you can see clouds moving like that on the northern side, and then clouds moving like that on the northern side. So that's our kind of area of low pressure. And then notice we kind of have a slightly more defined area of spin here, and that's going to be our low for tonight. And as you can see on that kind of northern and eastern edge, we have quite a large kind of curl of precipitation, and that's going to be moving into parts of Southern Ireland and especially southwest England, and first and then kind of most of England and Wales during the early hours of tomorrow morning. And I'll show you a risk graphic that I made myself. This is for all of Wednesday into Thursday kind of early morning. I'm just going to have a quick drink of water. But you can see in this blue zone, let me zoom in a bit, in this blue zone 1 to 5 centimeters I think is possible in most of these areas, maybe a bit kind of away from coasts, but especially over high grounds 5 centimeters is possible from the multiple snow events, which I'll get into in a bit. And then I've drawn 2 pink zones, one across kind of South Wales with a fairly high confidence of kind of 5 to 10 centimeters here, and then a second more conditional zone kind of across parts of central and southwest England, and that's another zone where I think we could see 5 to 10 centimeters, possibly more, of snow from the combined totals of tonight's threat and Thursday evening kind of threat. And it's worth noting this isn't just where I think we're going to see the most snow. I think it's currently the highest chance of seeing the most snow. So other areas could see just as much, but the chance or confidence is a bit lower at this stage. If I show you the current rain radar, you can see we've got a band of mostly rain, but fairly heavy rain now, beginning to push into the southwest. It's going to be moving like this and transferring, turning to snow across the northern edge and eventually the main band, because we have this cold air in place. And so we'll start off by looking at a few of the models now. Let's start off by looking at the GFS. I'm not the biggest fan of using the GFS for snow forecasts at all, mainly for positioning. But if I show you what this is showing, we've got our low pressure. Sorry everyone. We've got our low pressure moving in from the southwest, turning to snow across the northern and eastern edge. This is during midnight, and then you can see widely by 3 AM we've got heavy snow across the south, and that band remains in place all morning on this particular run. And actually, but even by the afternoon, that band doesn't clear, and eventually we did get this kind of secondary low pressure system. Just notice that here, and that's kind of small but packs a punch, bringing an extra covering of snow through southern central areas, and that kind of finished off by Thursday morning with a fairly decent covering of around 10 to 15 centimeters of snow in this region. If I show you another model, I'm not the biggest fan of this for precipitation type forecasts either, but it's useful to get an idea of what the kind of different model positions are. And you can see this is initially similar to GFS. By midnight we get that snow spreading in, turning widely to snow across parts of central southern England and South Wales, also Southern Ireland. But then this band kind of similar position by 6 o'clock, but it doesn't meander quite as much, and actually on this particular run it's cleared by midday, as you can see there. But even so, that initial push brings fairly decent covering of 7 to 10 centimeters quite widely before a second push comes in. It's a lot larger than the secondary push on GFS, and that's what's kind of raising my alarm bells. I'm not too sure. It's not good to have kind of a discrepancy at this stage, but that's quite a significant actually secondary spell of snow, and brings the combined totals to above 10 centimeters for quite a large part of South Wales and central England. So that's pretty significant really. Let's take a look at some of the more reliable, actually we'll take a look at this one more model here, and that's kind of showing similar things to the GFS. The snow on this one actually not quite clearing for much of central southern England, though the secondary push is not as significant and the initial push is not as significant there. And then let's look at the more reliable high resolution models. This is the Icon model, general kind of similar to the GFS other models I showed, with by 3 o'clock we've got widespread snow across the south. Interestingly, this snow is not quite as has not quite got the same northward extent and kind of widespread nature as the other models, and it's kind of cleared by 9 o'clock. And then notice the secondary spell is a lot less kind of clear-cut snow initially, more sleet and mixed, before we turn to more widespread snow. Even then, we do get a significant amount of snow in places, 1 to 3 centimeters across the south firstly, and then a dusting later on. If we take a look at the ARPEGG model, we can see here we've got that initial push, similar to the other models I've shown, widespread snow during this tomorrow morning, likely to be some significant disruption during rush hour, and then the snow kind of drifts away, breaks up by the afternoon, and then we do get another kind of significant and relatively disruptive secondary spell. And in some areas, especially this kind of this area in here, we are seeing possibly 10 centimeters of a combined total. Take a look at the high resolution ARPEGG model, Aurora model. High resolution is always better, always. And you can see, I mean, not always in terms of accuracy, but it's always better to look at in general. But you can see turning quite widely to snow during the morning, and then kind of drifts away during the mid-morning, and we get a secondary spell of snow during the evening as well. So, as you can see, at snow depths, we're looking at kind of 5 centimeters fairly widely, especially over high ground. If we look at the, actually before I look at that, I'm going to just kind of do a quick kind of diagram. So, firstly, we know we've got good confidence on initial significant snow in this region here, southwest England, South Wales, southern England. We've got kind of relatively high confidence that we're going to get this zone number 1, from about midnight till around 8 AM, I would say, looking at most models, and that's going to be kind of 1 to 5 centimeters fairly widely, and in some spots, especially over high ground, looking at 10 centimeters, especially kind of this region, in the high ground of that region, small chance of seeing 10 centimeters or so. We know with pretty good confidence that's going to happen, but the main uncertainty, to me at least, is what happens with the secondary zone. Either kind of two things happen. So either in scenario number 1, this is scenario number 1, what happens is that initial band of snow lingers for longer in this region, so we get high accumulations there. It's kind of further north, and then we get a more widespread kind of snowy spell during Wednesday evening in this region. So that's kind of scenario number 1, and then the combined totals are widely 5 to 15 centimeters in scenario number 1. Scenario number 2, which I think is probably a bit more likely at this stage, but I'll get into that in a bit, is that we're going to see that initial band, it doesn't quite get as far north, it doesn't linger as long, and it fades away slightly quicker. Still, like I said, 1 to 5 centimeters of snow, enough to cause some travel disruption, that kind of stuff tomorrow morning. But what the kind of secondary risk is after that, there's more of a break in between the snow, and then the secondary risk is more, it's not quite as significant. It's kind of more this region here, and it's more like 1 to 3 centimeters, and then the combined totals are more like kind of 5 to 7 centimeters. That's my kind of more likely opinion. And one thing to help us with that is that we can look at the ensembles. This is a high resolution version of the ensemble of the this is a high resolution ensemble of the Aero model, and you can see the average is actually looking pretty favourable for a spell of snow, initially beginning kind of around midnight, like I said, and then lasting until kind of 10-11 AM. That's pretty significant, likely to bring kind of 3 to 5 centimeters relatively widely. That's what I'm kind of expecting for our initial push. And then the kind of uncertainty here, you can start to see it merges. We do get another kind of area of snow in that those hatched white lines, but notice how this kind of gets all spread out during the middle of the day. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's kind of a larger spread. And so if I show you, run through kind of some of the different model runs, you can see what happens. There's quite lots of variability. As you can see, note to track that band. Number 1 is different to number 2, which is different to kind of number 3, and so on and so on. And what I'm basically saying is that there's still quite a lot of model variability, and there's still a lot on the table. But that all being said, I still do think that, I mean, if you just quickly run through this, get another kind of idea, I still kind of am thinking that the most likely scenario is we get our initial band of snow like this, pretty heavy, and then it kind of clears during the day, and then we get a secondary push through parts of central southern England again. I feel like that's a relatively makes kind of sense. Just quickly run through these just to get a quick idea of what we could be looking at. There is a bit of uncertainty actually regarding the secondary threats, whether it's actually more of a Midlands thing or southern England really. But I mean, there is just so much uncertainty that I'm going to end up having to make another video tomorrow to explain it. But at least we know what's going to happen tonight. And so if you're going to wake up tomorrow, expect to see kind of a decent covering of snow through in the south, the regions that we've been mentioning. 1 to 3 centimeters by the morning, travel disruption as we mentioned. That's a quick, so not quick, that's a very long look at Thursday's threat. If we turn our attention towards Thursday, Friday, we are potentially going to see another significant spell of snow. Quite a deep low potentially moving in with widespread snow on its northern flank, which in some areas where we get the most snow could see as much as 20 to 30 centimeters. And if I show you, for example, on this, you can see lots of snow there. But there is a lot of uncertainty on just where that snow is going to go. For example, Icon has it across Northern England, Northern Ireland, and Scotland. But for example, the ARPEDGE has it through kind of Ireland, the Midlands, and then later Southern England. European model has it as even further south, actually, Midlands, parts of Ireland, and then kind of Southern Central England. And take a look at the GDPS, that's got kind of Northern England, Ireland, and then also Southern England. So there is a bit of kind of model variability. So we can't go into too many details, but the potential is increased for a spell of disruptive snow next week. Anyways, that's going to be the end of the video now. Just a quick recap with this graphic. Round 1, 1 to 5 centimeters are likely through this area by tomorrow morning, and then another secondary risk during Wednesday evening and Thursday early morning, which could bring as much as 10 to 15 centimeters in spots, especially in this region here. Hopefully I'll have another video up tomorrow. I'm supposed to play in a hockey match tomorrow evening, so if that does happen, I might not be able to come back in time to make a video, but I've got a feeling that might be cancelled, fingers crossed. But anyways, that's going to be the end of the video, so thank you so much for watching everyone, and have a great day, and enjoy the snow.